we have recently released, well, last week, finally the 1.0 version with like the minimum features that we think are needed for this. So you can finally access it from there. Also some updates on the documentation, and these are basically the key features like inventory management, promotions, some tax features, payment via Stripe, and let me see. So that it comes in the different features in the commerce module. This is especially relevant because some of them are like enabled. Some of the features like taxation has different parts that there's a basic one for just local taxing, and there's custom tax rates for international, and you have to enable it to override the base feature. And yeah, we have separate permission, so you can decide if the if you want a separate role for who can check out, or anonymous checkout, or whatever you need. And where is it? Go back here. So in terms of taxation, the basic one is really just you set a gross price. For example, here in Hungary, we have this atrocious 27%. Oh, sorry, not here. Yeah. The tax rate, VAT. So you set this to 12.7, for example, and save. Then this updates the net price, and this will actually appear here. Also, we have inventory simple inventory management, which is just you select a number, and during checkout it gets reduced, and you can set how much can be ordered. So if you like only want to allow bulk ordering, then you set this to 10 or whatever. And else, oh yeah, you can have discounts. I will show that in a bit. But first, so actually, let's order one more. And then the email is get for the username, but you have to fill these out. You can provide separate address or not, and you can also save these. Doesn't matter. So this is of course just demo, but we have already shown this in a previous meeting. So you can see that it added the tax amount, and it actually reduced the inventory from 4 to 2. And we can also add like discounts if we want, which looks like can use percentage or a fixed amount. For example, I don't know, let's give a good nice discount, and then set it so, I don't know, it should be available now. Set a future period, right? right? And here as well, we can set a minimum and maximum. So in case you wanted to limit the discount to some kind of amount. And now it gets updated. And of course, all of these can be overridden with custom templates. So it can be tailored to the size design. What else? So since we selected to save, it saved the address. Unfortunately, the phone number is not saved, but we didn't really have an occasion for customizing that yet. But what we can do is if we go to this user addresses page, then you can actually just edit these. And this, for example, can be inserted into a registration flow if we want to encourage the user to set it up before checking out. And what else? Right. So I wanted to show that you can set up the Stripe dashboard, and then when you buy something, it gets logged as usual. And of course, if it was an active account, then it would be like a real payment where that's actually necessary. So as I mentioned, there's this other type of taxation. I actually have a recipe for it. Oh yeah, so we have a couple of helpful recipes in case you don't want to use the setup recipe for demonstrating this stuff. In fact, this is not enabled by default, so you have to edit here. And then you will have like a list of tax rates, and this is so this uses regular expressions. So if you want something more complicated than like based on the postal code, for example, in Hungary, postal codes looking like this. So like you would say this to say that basically postal codes up to from 1,000 to 2,000, that's for the capital, and postal codes looking like this and above, that would be for the countryside. So you could make something like that if that was necessary. But it's not necessary here in Hungary though. Oh, stay. And for example, now if I go back here to check out, so now it offers me the same. But if I go to the checkout and change my address to, what was it, United States, then it updated because this uses asynchronous query to recalculate the total, and then it will check out that price. Oh yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to show, that you have this region menu. So if you don't want all of these shown up because you only ship to a handful of countries, for example, or only want to ship to Hungary because local prices or whatever, then of course it reloads the tenant. That's why it emptied the cart. But now there's no other option. And yeah, I think these are the basic features. It's worth mentioning that all of the stuff like the taxes, the promotions, and the inventory, these are all using provider schemes. So you can add a custom ones, like I have shown with the tax provider. So for example, if we want to add the support for an external tax provider like Avotax, then you would just add a new feature, enable it, and then it would get priority. Or if we want a different kind of promotion, for example, just today, a user on the GitHub suggested that we should have like global rules for the promotion, and in that case, it would be possible to add a different tax provider. Discount provider, promotion provider, promotion provider, and these providers have an order and checks if it's applicable, and then updates the cart or whatever we want to update. So it's pretty future-proof for additional features and stuff like that.
Thank you. Questions?
Why do you prefix all these features with Orchard Commerce? I mean, should it be commerce or e-commerce dash content fields? Just curious.
Good question.
In the UI, I think you mean.
Yeah. Well, the feature name.
Yeah.
And then another
it's
thing,
just because it's like a separate project, and
No,
the project
that's
name,
not the reason. Yeah, but still,
yeah,
in the UI, you don't have to like, yes, you know, it's in Orchard Core, like it's not Node.js or Django or Ruby on Rails or Drupal or WordPress. You are in Orchard Core. Like
it's
on the left,
redundant.
you don't see Orchard Core configuration, Orchard Core workflow, Orchard Core security, Orchard Core search. It's Orchard Core. So yeah, in the module name, sure. In the namespaces, sure. But in the UI, it's people know, or they don't have to know. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually completely reasonable, and I agree.
Do a Control F here. Do a Control F on your own.
Yeah.
If you do Control F and you type Orchard space core, you will see that it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's redundant, that's all.
Control F.
Yeah.
CTRL.
I'll make a note of it.
Everywhere. In the descriptions, in the tags, in the titles. I didn't notice it, but now you mentioned that, Mike. I'm like, yeah, it's everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah. Another thing I just also noticed, the Orchard Core e-commerce core, it sounds like just provide services. And if it provides services, you shouldn't allow it to be disabled, enabled manually. We have a new flag called enabled by dependency only. You might want to set that to true. And if you do, that feature will automatically get enabled by other features only when needed, and it will be disabled when it's not needed. This way, you don't register extra services if you don't have to.
And it won't show up in the list.
It will show up actually, but you just can't.
What?
Yeah, you can't enable it or disable it though.
I'm not even sure.
Well, I think we followed the same logic as always enabled, because always enabled also shows up.
Okay.
So it doesn't make sense to hide them if we're showing all enabled. So are always enabled. So it's either we hide everything that you can't control, or we show everything.
Again, one of these cases where we want to be consistent, even if it's wrong. But that's better than being wrong and right. At least we are all wrong. That's better.
Well, true. Yeah, maybe we should also have a filter that allow you to filter. By default, we hide
Show
them.
me. Yeah.
Show me stuff that I can't control.
So many things to do.
But
more important.
Yeah, another question. Why is all the UI, so all the settings are all over the place? I mean, shouldn't you put an e-commerce settings where everything goes in there, and maybe you can group it by cards or by tabs?
All the settings are in this commerce drop down. So
well, yeah, but what I mean, like, shouldn't you put everything maybe in one tab so a user can actually click through in one page instead of having to go through many pages? Again, I don't know, but I'm just
some of these like you know,
maybe from different
post-tenant reset, and anyways, some of these are pretty simple, but I imagine there would be some that may be more complicated, and if you have some feature, some of these that would require their own tabs, then that would not be possible that way.
Well, I mean, like currency, region, that sounds like it should be in one, to me anyway. I mean, I could be wrong. Regions, okay, maybe, I don't know, or the tax and the stripe, maybe, okay, you can put those separate, but anyway, I don't know. I'm asking.
Is that possible if they are in separate modules?
Yes.
Yeah, just use the same group ID.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you use the same group ID, then you should be able to, and then you can even group them within the group by cards or by tabs or whatever real easily. And then another thing, why the custom taxes? All the inputs don't seem to have the default style for some reason. Again, it's just simple UI stuff.
Well,
maybe just you can.
This is just a table. What do you mean?
No, I mean, like, look at the inputs. They don't have like the form control class. No, it's simple, but it's just not consistent. Again, I'm picking on little stuff just to provide more feedback.
Where do we have a table? Oh, yeah. You are using a component that is not something that, oh boy, it's like a 10 years old component. Look at the culture selection. We used the same component.
Yeah, correct.
Because it has up and down, and it has the table view. So where is the culture selection? Like,
I mean, here settings? I would expect that you would have, similar UI to what we have, where you can add, outside of a table.
Can you add the culture?
Yeah. But
we can't order them. So maybe you pick this component. Yeah, okay, that's true. Yeah. So that's, you took this component, and that's not a nice one. Okay, interesting. But we have one where we can reorder items, and that's weird. Drag and dropping, not by clicking up, down. That's, you did that like in the 1980s.
That's in the admin side. So I just put together something quickly on the.
Okay. Well, it can be improved later. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then in the taxes, I mean, maybe that tax feature is very nice, but you shouldn't make it depend on e-commerce. Maybe I want to use it for other stuff. So I noticed in the features, it's called e-commerce. I don't know if there's dependency for e-commerce for that taxation, but it might be nice to actually abstract that model away, or the module away.
A tax service that you can provide.
It uses the prices from this module, so it seems fairly integrated to me. But we plan to reorganize the modules anyway, because it's right now a bit too centralized. So it's something to consider for sure.
And one other thing in the front end, when you were checking out, what was that route? Was it /checkout? Yeah, /checkout.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also not a good route. Maybe somebody else want to use checkout. I don't know. Maybe you should put e-commerce /checkout. Again, I don't know. I think, or store or something, right? Store /checkout, but not directly checkout, because somebody else could be using it. It's just so common.
But what else would you use it if not
Store
for
slash
your
list.
store module?
Yeah, store/checkout. So you're checking out through the e-commerce store.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just that like first level words like this, you might have more conflicts that if you use a subsection and the verb.
And one more question I did have, when you went to the item itself, when you went to the editing the product, I thought I saw something like a gross amount, and then
Yes.
what was it? Gross amount, and then there is a price. So what's the difference between gross price and price?
Well, that's the net price. It says base price, but you know, that's the net price. That's the price without tax.
I mean, usually, based on my experience, taxes is only a checkout thing. It has nothing to do with the product. So I don't know why would you want to put gross, price is a price, right? And then during a checkout, that price, you can add to it taxation. So I think something is awkward here to me for some reason. So it should be priced without.
Mike, the States, that's the only country maybe that has taxes out of the price. If you go in Hungary and you see a price, the tax is in the price. You don't see it, plus taxes. When you see $100, there is a tax inside. So in the States, when you see $100, then when you fill up the form, then it tells you, hey, by the way, we'll add 10% of taxes because we are based in California, for instance. And that's different. So maybe yeah.
So over there, they basically, the final price is what they list.
There. When you say over there, it's like it's like everywhere, not in
at least the whole EU.
In the entire world except the US, do you put a final price and that's including everything?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine.
Even the salary of the servers. No, when you go to a restaurant, it tells you will have to pay $50, and we pay, and the restaurant pays the waiters. You don't have then to tip the waiters to their work. You know, like that's how it works in this location in Hungary.
Sure.
Everywhere.
Does that mean it doesn't work for the US, or is there a way to get rid of gross price and apply the tax after?
That's interesting.
You would just not fill it out, uncheck it, leave it like that, because this is only for this is only for the simple taxes when you want to only have local. You only ship to one tax region, because we actually have a client in the EU who only ship locally because the goods they sell aren't applicable elsewhere. So that's all they need. But if you
need to change
otherwise, you just leave this empty and use the other feature and set the taxes by state, for example, or whatever you want.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to think about this if you want, obviously, to have a wider solution, is maybe have a settings, whether to include the taxes in the price or not, maybe. And then, for cases like, it could be, you can have multiple taxes, right? If you go to Canada, they have more than one tax. So some places in Canada have 2 or 3 taxes on each transaction. So I don't know if defining that here at the product level makes any sense. Maybe you should define that somewhere where it can be applied. Maybe here, just because you have a global settings or a configuration that say, hey, in Hungary, we charge 20% tax. So you put the base price, and then the final price will be, $10 plus 20%. And maybe that's how. I just don't know. I'm just trying to think of, does it even make sense to put a price rate per product? I don't know if it does, because usually you tax on bulk, maybe on a group of product, maybe on the entire thing, right? So that's usually how tax work. It's not per product.
Tax groups, and then you define tax groups. If you have 1, fine. If you have 0, fine. If you have 10, fine. But you select the group in your product. You don't select the tax rate.
Right.
like
And
food
like-
versus
Correct.
because
Yeah,
they have
like in the
different tax
US,
rates.
we don't tax food. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in every country, I'm sure they have different taxations, or like, you know, when you go to restaurants in some countries, it's to go and local, you have also different tax rates. So you need groups, then you need rules to define the tax, and multiple rules such that you can say, when you display the price, you can include or not based on whatever you want the tax. And then when you check out, you have a different rules. We can say, here I need to show different taxes because you know the location of the customer or not, like for the US. If you have these two, you support everything. You just blank the thing on the checkout for Europe, and you just blank the UI on the front end for taxes, but not in the checkout. It's just a list of rules for taxes, and the list of taxes.
I mean, taxes are really it's very big because it's so different. So it has to be very flexible, and that's why I suggested it does, and that's why I suggest if you are actually going through that route, maybe you should make a tax module that is completely different than e-commerce because it could be used for many reasons.
And in my notes, when I was about to ask the questions, I mentioned that modules, taxes should be services, because you want to be able to share these rules across different apps, or you might want to import the Hungarian taxes rules, and you want to import the US taxes rules because you don't sell in Hungary, but you just sell in the US. But David just sells in Hungary and doesn't sell in the US, so you want to reuse these rules. So when I see the regular expressions in the tax settings, I'm like, fine, but these regular expressions, they should be common to everyone. So these should be reusable modules and not just regular expressions like logic. Like it's the 1st of January and you are in Nebraska, so you pay these taxes. Not like regex on whatever. It doesn't work like this. It's much more complicated. So at least I would like to see JavaScript instead of regular expressions, because you can do regular expression in JavaScript if you want, but you can also do logic with time and location and your mood, or like, let's try not to pay taxes today, whatever you want. And second, make it modular and extensible such that you can share the rules. So it can come from modules and C# code. And then on top of that, if you want to add JavaScript, you can, but you can share these rules.
But do you think that someone would go ahead and start coding tax law in JavaScript? Because,
well,
to be
do
honest,
you think someone will start coding tax rules in regular expressions?
Yeah.
Well,
I added regular expressions just, to be a bit more flexible, but really the point of this table is to be really simple, because it's like, I really only want to ship to a couple regions, and it's simple. But if I want something more complicated or more flexible, or something where it's I don't want to take responsibility for it, then I go to an external tax service, and that's something that we plan to support eventually.
Can you type regular expression somewhere here in this UI? Where do you type the regular expression? Type it. Type one, a stupid one.
Yeah, sure. Like you can do it actually. It's like this.
Do you think it's simple?
What happened?
It's okay, we can see. Do you think it's simple? I just want a yes or no.
It's simple for me because I like regex.
Thank you. Yes. Can you go at the beginning of the text box and add a slash, and go at the end of the text box and add a slash again? On the same text box, the post slash, just a slash, not backslash.
Slash, like this?
Yes, this one. And at the end also, that's a regular expression in JavaScript. That's the JavaScript text box. That's not much more complicated, right? But now you can do if and else and stuff. And you have flexibility. So whenever you said, all the arguments you said about regular expression, I will say the same and replace regular expression with JavaScript. Then, even better, what I suggested is, no, it's a module in C# that you can reuse. So you can select Hungarian taxes law, and then you don't even have to type these regular expressions for postal code and everywhere. It's just optionally, you can type JavaScript, which is much more flexible than regular expression, which is as complex as JavaScript, if not more, And you can still do regular expression if it's simple enough for you in JavaScript, just by adding a slash. So I don't get your point. But that's tax. So it should be a more extensible. Right now it's fine for you, that's okay, but I think it should be more extensible. Just because it can be complex, so make it extensible and use the simple case, like today. But yeah.
For me,
comments.
just another comment. I don't know if it's helpful. I once had to create a module for taxes myself, okay, but for only US and Canada. And the way how I did it is by creating a tax type. So each type has a different algorithm behind it. So you can say like a state tax or whatever, or city tax or locality tax, because there could be different kind of taxes. And then you can have multiple taxes. And during checkout or during computing the final price, then you can basically say, call all the tax providers saying, hey, calculate tax, and then you'll be able to come back with the total taxation broken down by a group, right? Because each
that's
tax
what he's doing here. Yeah, that's what he's doing here. That's why you have the order, because each line is like a rule. And if it applies the filter with an S, then it will send a tax rate. But I agree with Mike and David here. It's just a set of rules, just we didn't see it was a set of rules. But this rule should be C# and ordered, and the last one could be a JavaScript one if you want. But each one should be like add new, and you select the type of rule you want, like add new Hungarian taxes rule, add new Canadian taxes rule, add new whatever, and add new JavaScript custom rule. And in the end, you process everything, and in the end, you have, this is a tax rate for this case, for this product, in the checkout, in the front end. But all these things, they are just inputs, and the logic will take into account front end, checkout, Hungary, Canada, here is the tax rate, or food, clothes, here is the tax rate. And then you call it with an API from the front end or from wherever you want, all the time you want. On server side, when you render the thing, on the front end, when someone selects a product, it's just the tax module with an API and rules that you can reuse. I think that will solve all the issues. Without knowing all the details of the taxes, that will solve the technical part of the thing.
Right.
So it's not an add row, it's like add logic, add rule, add tax rule, and then you can pick up all the things. And then you have export, import for state and everything. But yeah, that's something we do a lot in Orchard everywhere, right? Add dynamic stuff like activities, like steps, like, yeah.
If it's helpful, I can just show you, well, not now, but I can send you screenshots of previous stuff that I have done with taxation. I don't think it's perfect, but at least
we should look at the best e-commerce stuff, like, or the most used, like Shopify. What do they do? How do you configure taxes in Shopify? That would be interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting too, yeah.
And if they use Liquid, that's probably right. They made Liquid, so maybe, yeah, because they don't have a JavaScript. Yeah, they are also done in JavaScript, whatever.
And you might want a tax effective rate too, because sometimes, it doesn't start until doesn't kick in until 1/1/24, right?
That's why I'm saying it should be a module with C# because this way you can have this logic and import the thing called American taxes, and it will apply whatever it does, and its version, so you can update it, and that's great. And maybe there is already a standard for that, like C# code that you can reuse and update the NuGet package. And it, like, I mean, for sure, right? Like if it doesn't exist, somebody has. So obvious. Do you have an example site using that? Because you're not doing it for fun. When do we see the website that you use this e-commerce module for? David.
I will.
But you can say you can't show it. What do you say?
Yeah, I will consult with internally about that, because, well, obviously we have a client. Not sure if I can talk about it yet.
Then don't. That's my question.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Then later, when it's public,
I will say something later.
It's okay. Thank you. I just wanted, because I already asked the question last time, and I know that you could not talk about it because you're building it. So, and maybe now it's 1-0, maybe it's close, so it's closer now. But
Yeah,
or maybe I
it's
will
much
see it on
closer.
Twitter before. Yeah, but that's great. That's great. Cool. Thank you. Do you have, or will you have you thought about having dashboard widgets, like for instance, Stripe widgets on the dashboard on the home page of the admin, such that when someone goes there, they can see like the latest orders or the stock of products or like the stock that is low and stuff like that?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh,
But
you don't do that?
sounds interesting.
I'll share a link then later.
Yes, please. Thanks.
With an example of companies doing that in their dashboard. Do you have time field? The time field in the content item. I want it to die when I saw that. Can you show us the time field in the product? Like what was that?
Yeah.
When you edit a product.
This
For
one.
me, yes. So what is that thing?
Yeah, it's built-in. I mean, it's
That's HTML5.
Yeah, it's just
okay.
date
So
time.
this is the standard date time field of Orchard?
It is, I believe, yes.
Thank you. Then second question, why did you write UTC in the label? Because if it's the standard date time field, this is not UTC, this is local time.
Correct.
Yes, I see.
It's local time, and yes, it's stored as UTC, but Orchard does it for you. It converts the local to UTC and converts UTC to local. So don't say UTC in the UI. It's just a technical implementation detail. And what you are seeing is not UTC. It's your local time.
So it's just about the title.
Yes, in this case, yes. I was worried about the full thing that you made, but no, you just made the title. So that's good. That's just the title you need to change. It's like beginning, expiration, and that's it. Not UTC.
Right.
You can mention local if you want, or the local time zone if you want, but don't write UTC. Write what is the time zone of the user that they're seeing that right now. Just in case, because that's important, right? Like,
yeah,
promotion goes
it's misleading.
on, like, for us it's like 7-8 hours. For you it's like 2 hours early or something like that. So that's important. Yeah, that's it. That was all my question. I will try to find a screenshot of the dashboard example I have. I know where it is. I will show you. Found it, so I should be able to copy the link. We try to open that. So I will share in the chat. Oh, I can share my screen then. I will share my screen then. If I can find Teams, share screen. This one. I will zoom. It's not the best quality, right? But so this is the company making some tools for user tracking, bot tracking, issue tracking. And this is the admin menu from Orchard on the backend. Okay, you can recognize some things. And the dashboard is a feature that you enable that will replace the home page of the backend with widgets. And you can, in your modules, you create custom widgets that people can add on their dashboard. So my question was, maybe you should also provide widgets that will display the list of products and their orders or the stock, like limited stock or the whatever, you see, gross income for the last month or whatever you want. That would be super interesting, I believe. Or Stripe integration, because if you have a Stripe module, then you could also, some things that are in the Stripe dashboard, you could import them as a widget here to show it there instead of having to go to the Stripe dashboard. Just some ideas for the dashboard. If you have questions, ask Antoine. We made the dashboard module.